Year 2031 is a cozy indie RPG for Game Boys set in a post-viral pandemic. 8-bit joystick. Year 2031 is an indie-made, story-driven role-playing game for the Game Boy, set a decade after a global virus pandemic destroyed much of the modern world. Originally, it started development titled Corona the Game, and it's interesting that we're just now starting to see video games that were inspired by the global COVID pandemic. I previously reviewed Full Void and Full Quiet that were both quite COVID-inspired. This is exactly the kind of review that I want to do. It is a new game for Game Boy and Game Boy Color, and I want to disclose that I was sent an early ROM file to review by Sestimir of Kosantek, who is an indie game developer from the Czech Republic, who single-handedly created this game. For the past 2 years, he worked on the game's story and graphic design and coded it himself. Year 2031 is for the Game Boy Color, but it also works on the DMG Game Boy and Game Boy Pocket. The Year 2031.gb game file is playable on every device that supports the original Game Boy, FPGA, or emulator. I run it on my EverDrive GBX7 on my Game Boy DMG, Game Boy Pocket, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, GBA SP, Super Game Boy and Game Boy Player, and on Open FPGA on my Analog Pocket, and RetroArch on my Mu Mini and RetroPie. I did run into some issues with the EverDrive that I will touch on later. It is a post-apocalyptic, top-down RPG adventure set in a rural area in Eastern Europe. You can walk freely across mountains, cave, villages, and cities, but it's not too expansive, and there's a map. In the game, you need to collect basic resources to help you survive, as well as tools and equipment to help you with various tasks. It has a linear main plot, but there's a ton of various side quests. I like the plot, and there are themes of trying to put the world back together, and I can definitely relate to that in a world with COVID. The story is about gathering food and water and taking care of people and trying to reestablish civilization. There's also themes of politics, corruption, and a secret cabal of bad guys. There are actually quite a bit of towns and areas to go to and a lot of people to talk to. And I really like the plot diary that helps you keep track of where you're at in the game. And as far as starting life as Corona the Game, well, I can relate to that. I'm actually an essential healthcare worker, and I actually spent a hell of a lot of time in person, including taking care of hundreds of COVID patients. Us essential healthcare workers didn't get to telecommute and stay home. We showed up to work every single day. For the graphics, the game straddles the line between cozy and creepy, simple Game Boy graphics showing decay. It's retro, but it's also sort of a horror game, or more specifically, it's a survival game. The graphics are actually quite good considering there's just between 4 and 15 colors on screen at a time. The sprite artwork is actually pretty good. You're able to tell what everything is, and it actually looks like a post-apocalyptic world. Exploring is a big part of the game, looking for items, hunting for resources, finding things that unlock new areas, all tried and true but very comfortable role-playing game mechanics. Scavenging is also a big part of it. You are searching for cars, chopping down trees, fishing, and of course checking bookshelves and dresser drawers inside houses. And you can actually use your axe to tear down some doors, but the people whose house you're breaking into will not be too happy about it. You can also slaughter pigs in this game. The pigs are friendly and express their affections for you with this cute little heart icon. So you can kill them for food if you're a human monster, or you can just fish. So you need to find food to heal, and sleeping overnight does not heal your combat wounds, but eating food does. I normally stock up on fish to eat. I guess there's a Viking influence to all of it. Crafting. There's a little crafting bits, but it's really just managing your resources such as toilet paper, wood, scrap metal, and food. By the way, they used toilet paper for currency because it was a thing in early COVID times. Combat. There is semi-real-time combat. Personally, I prefer turn-based combat like Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy for this kind of game. So, early on I thought it was just button mashing, but it really is more of a waiting game and patience, and as soon as I figured it out, I got a lot better at the combat. The thing is not every combat fight gives you a reward afterwards, and not every enemy carries money, so it cannot exactly be rewarding. But I really liked fighting the bandits, the bears, and I guess they were going for more contemporary real-time fights and less like turn-based like Dragon Quest. There is minimalist sound. There's mostly ambient sounds that just came across as beeping, and there's no music. And I really think the game could have used some music. I mean, I got where they were going for by trying to just have ambient sounds of the forest, but it just sort of came across as quiet beeping. Personally, I think it could have benefited from some music to help set the atmosphere and mood. Some bugs that I encountered while playing with the EverDrive. Sometimes the screen locks on screens with signs when playing on real hardware with the EverDrive, and it will crash if you hit the EverDrive menu button on top of the cartridge, making it impossible to use the save states. Sometimes as I was playing it, there were some random crashes, and sometimes after you exit out of a menu screen, you can warp to a different part of the map that you've been to, and this especially happens after you were defeated in a battle. The developer is aware of this one and is working on it, and I hope there's an update in the future by improving its playback on the EverDrive. I had build 1-1 and the developer used the Easy Flash cart, and I had an EverDrive, and I doubt that these bugs will happen on a cartridge. So I switched to playing on my Analog Pocket and Open FPGA, and I haven't had any problem with that. I also didn't have any problems playing it in RetroArch on my RetroPie. But I literally have the most popular flash cart in the form of the EverDrive, and I've been having problems with it while playing this game on real hardware due to the bugs. I hope there's a new version, and I hope that the bugs get fixed, but when I switched to playing it in an emulator or on my Analog Pocket, I didn't have any problems. I still liked the game, but I did notice these problems while playing it on real hardware using the EverDrive. Pre-orders and sales. There's a download version for $12 that's currently on sale for $10, and there's going to be a physical cartridge without the box for €39 or $31. There's a physical edition Kickstarter for €49 or $53 with the box and all the printed manuals. The box cartridge game comes with a detailed printed game manual, and there's also a PDF manual for all the digital versions. By the way, the pre-order for the physical version is going on right now, so you can go to the link in the description and go there and pre-order a cartridge on Kickstarter if that's what you're into, and you should do that. It's a cool game. Year 2031 manages to feel both contemporary and old-fashioned retro. It's pretty impressive for a development team of one. While other people were learning how to bake bread in the early days of COVID, Sesmir of Kosian Tech designed and developed this RPG for the Game Boy. Pretty impressive. So I make videos on the whole wide world of retro video games that you could watch each Saturday morning, so make Saturday morning rad again and subscribe to this channel. This is 8-Bit Joystick. Stay awesome. Play retro.